My name is Jason Miller, founder of ServiceNow Solutions, and we're about to unlock the power of ServiceNow. I'd like to start off by thanking all 2,532 subscribers in over 80 countries globally. If you believe in transferring knowledge to those who need it most, please click subscribe. Your user data will not be transferred to anyone outside of ServiceNow without your consent. Okay, everyone. Well, I'd like to start off today by congratulating John Donahoe on moving on to Nike. I believe he's going to be the third CEO of Nike. If research went correctly today, I was like, wow, that news was totally shocking. So congrats, and I hope your successor, Mr. McDermott, does as good of a job as you do, because I'll tell you what, there are some big shoes to fill there. So we'll see how it goes. But the product is fantastic, and it sells itself, in my opinion. So today we're going to be discussing 5 business rules that you should have in your arsenal. If you're going to be a developer out there, there's basically 5 that I've put together that I use most often when I'm dealt certain user requirements. So I'm just going to go on down the list. So to start off, creating a ticket when a configuration item goes down. A lot of times we'll find that there's kind of like this manual process where if we mark a configuration item as non-operational, then we'll need to open up a ticket, and the configuration manager is often tasked with doing that or contacting the service desk. So I've used this before to automate processes. So basically the business rule kind of looks like this. It's an after business rule. We'll notice here it's after update. So basically what we're saying is on the CMDB CI table, there's an existing item, which I'll show you in a second. And if we're updating it and the operational status changes to non-operational, then here's what's going to happen. I didn't put any field values in here. I really wanted to get more into scripting and explaining how the scripting works here. So what we're going to do is basically create a record on the incident table. To get this advanced tab to show up, by the way, if you first come into a business rule, it might look like that. So you're going to have to click this advanced box right here. So we'll go back into advanced, created a variable called INC, and then we'll see here new, and then glide record, and then we name the table here incident. And now you'll notice here initialize, right? So it's telling us, hey, we need to open up a record, and then we're going to fill it out with these values right here. So we're going to see here incident, meaning from the incident table CMDB CI, excuse me. We're going to use current.sysid. And then we're going to put in a short description here of just plain text, configuration item down, plus the name, plus the asset tag. And we'll notice here that we have spaces in between the pluses there. We could even add a dash in there if we wanted to, or whatever, and get creative with it. And then the description, we're going to do the item plus the name of it, at the following location, fine, and then in the location we'll populate it with the location. Then we'll insert the record into the incident table. So let me just go ahead and demo this for you real quick. We have here Superman and Robin. They're already non-operational, so what I'm going to do is, it looks like the asset tag here for this Java application server is SDO1, so let's do that one. Non-operational. We're going to go ahead and change it right here. And one thing I want to note is that I'm in a domain separated environment right now. It looks like I'm in global, but I've been toggling back and forth, so we'll see when I refresh this incident list. If only 2 show up, that means I'll have to change my domain. Okay, so great, it showed up. So we'll see here. Okay, looks like location came through. The configuration item name is in the configuration item slot. Looks like there's no domain on this, so it got thrown into the default domain. So maybe I'd want to define that in either in the record, or I could define it in the actual script itself. Right here we have our our short description. So it says exactly what we wanted to. Configuration item down, Java application server FLX. Right? Doesn't look like our other part of it, MIA or the SDO1 came through here. So we could try that again with one of these other ones and see if it works here. Let's try changing this one to operational. And let's do non-operational for Superman. And we'll see if this flows on through. Okay, it looks like for here it pulled it. Maybe it has something to do with being that default domain, but I doubt it. So I'll have to check the value in the table here and make sure this thing actually saved, but it appears that it did. So, but we'll just move on. So since one of them worked, great, we'll declare victory on that. Then we'll go to number 2, push info from a parent to a child. So basically we have here a requested item. And by the way, all these are taken from real experiences that I've had trying to push values back and forth, where they've, customers have asked for certain values to be pushed down from the item to maybe like the approval here. And we have here, so this would be what we would call the parent record. And then down here we would have the child record here. Now note with this option here is that you might want to be careful when you're scripting parent to child, because remember, you could have several children out there. So if you don't want the value going to every one of the children, you're probably going to want to filter out your conditions here or inside the advanced script. So this is a before, and then we're just saying when the order guide is Aspen now, we're going to run a query here. So we're doing a variable of gr, and we have our glide record here of sysapproval underscore approver, which is our approval table that we were just looking at there. And then we're saying, okay, here's the field that we're looking at, right? And then we're going by current.sysid, right? So remember, current is referring, when we talk about current dot, we're talking about right here, this table. So just remember, whenever you see current, pop back up to the table. Okay, so then we have our gr here, which is what? The approval table. So we're saying u underscore order guide. So the u underscore signifies what? It's custom field. And then current.order guide. So order guide, it appears, is just it's a regular out of the box field here. So let's give it a shot. We're going to put in order guide of Aspen now on our rhythm right here. And then we're going to save it. Hopefully the record doesn't disappear. Okay, great. And then we'll see here the order guide changed to Aspen now. So we essentially push the value from here to here. Kind of a nice feature that we can, or something that we can leverage to push this down there. And if you ever have a requirement where you have to push values around, a lot of times the sysapproval table is a good place to go to look at different business rules and the way they construct them. Okay, so and this was just the list of the approvals there. So go to number 3. Create a new user record, right? So on the sys user table from a task record. So for this here, let's say we have, and I think the one I created was on the problem table. So basically, here's a problem record. I'm going to refresh it because I've been in this screen for a while, so I just don't want it to conk out later on. Okay, great. So basically what I set up here was a way for, and you probably, like most of the time when I've had these types of requests to create new user records, it would be on the like off the incident, because incident seems to be higher volume, so and a higher probability that we'll need to create new users off it. But for today I wanted to use problem, and if I click on this reported by not found, it comes up with all of this additional information that will need to be created, right? So let's just take a look at the business rule though real quick. And you'll probably recall one of my past videos, I did one of these but with the variables coming off of a portal, or excuse me, a service catalog request off the portal. So here's what we're going to say here. So if reported by is not found or changes to true, right, on insert or update, I mean, we could do insert. So remember, insert is when you first create the record, and then update is anytime you update it. But that's why we're putting in this changes to true, because it would have to actually toggle from one to the other. And then we're going to do an advanced here, right? So we have a variable of new user, and then new glide record, right? And then remember, we had this construction before with the configuration item, right? Creating the incident. So this is kind of the same thing, right? So we're saying here, we're going to initialize the record or bring it up, and then we're going to do first name on the sys user record, right? We're setting the value on the sys user table of current. Remember, current right here on the table, .u underscore first name. So these are all custom fields with the U underscore in front of them. I'm not sure if all these, I can't remember if I defined all these in the actual script itself. And then this last one here, we're going to see here, I'm setting the flag back to false. So I'm saying current.u reported by not found equal to false. So I want to change the flag back there, right? Mainly because, and that's another reason I put in this changes to, because there's a difference between is and changes to. Because if I did is and I kept saving it, and if I didn't put this provision in here, then I could create, duplicate records, right? So what are we going to do now? We're going to put in, let's see here. Oh, I don't know. Talked about John Donahoe before, so I don't think he'll mind. So let's see here. We're going to put in a domain. Let's put an Aspinall. What the heck? And then I think John's going to be in Oregon now, right? But I don't know the area code there, so I'm just going to use 305. Right, and then we're going to say John at Nike.com. All right, there's nothing else here that appears to be. Okay, so it says congrats on creating an account for John Donahoe. Fantastic. Let's see if I can find him in here. I might not be able to because of the domains, but oh, looks like he's here. And then if I want to, I'll click into the record and make sure that, yeah, sure, we'll save this, why not? Let's go into the record, click save, and hopefully this won't take too long. Fantastic, we have all the information that we wanted. I don't know why my browser does this, but it always populates it with user ID. Hopefully the people at ServiceNow are watching this. Can you get that to stop, or maybe that's just browser thing, I don't know. So we did the created, look, 1957. I'm not sure if you can see my time up here, but it looks like it is correct. All right, fantastic. Okay, so number 4, push info from a child to a parent. Or I put in here grandparent because this is going to be one that the scenario worked like this, or the requirement was that we have users in a lower level domain. So all of you out there who are in a domain separated environment and you have to mess around with this, you only want certain people seeing certain domains, but they might be a task fulfiller, but yet the requester, like in the portal, so the requester in the portal is making a request. They're in a higher level domain. It goes through the approval process. It comes all the way down to the task levels, or SC task level, right? So our catalog task. But then the person at the fulfiller at the very bottom level of the domain structure cannot see the actual task. So what are they to do? Well, they're going to come crying to the support desk and say, hey, you need to give us access to those records. So one way this was accomplished was by telling the system here, okay, go to request, right? And then notice right here, here's our query, right? sysid current.request. So remember, current coming off of SC task. So request is the field, right? And then we're querying by the sysid. And then we're saying, okay, we want this sys domain field, meaning the domain field, to be this on this record, right? We want to be the same as the current on the assignment group that's sysdomain. So basically what was happening was we were putting in the record on the task level, but they need to see the request. They need to see what's going on there. And sure, I brought all those fields down, I dot walked them down, but they still couldn't see them because the information actually is in another domain, right? And also, if you want to take a look at the when to run here, just one more time, this is after it was either insert or updated, right? And anytime it would changes, that way it would change that assignment group's domain, and that way it could be dynamic. So that way you don't have to keep setting it for, like if you have one item that's always fulfilled by a certain group, but you never know in the future, right? The groups might change, there might be a reorg, something like that might happen. So that ensures that it stays dynamic. So if we take a look here, here's our catalog task, and I'm just gonna refresh this thing. I want to reload this form. It's probably going to come up with a rule that I've toggled my domain. Oh, maybe okay, yes. Okay, so I've toggled my domain scope or expanded it, and the reason I did that is so that way I can change this. I can be in one domain, then kind of see all the values are from other domains. So here we have Aspen Now, and that's our assignment group. And we'll take a look here. I don't think we can see it this way. I think I put the domain in the list. Yeah, okay, so Aspen Now here we have top, right, as our domain. Let's just click over here to our actual request. Remember, we're keying in on the request. And the reason why I put in the slide that it's the grandfather or grandparent is because technically, your request is a one-to-many to the item and then to the catalog task. So I guess technically it's the grandparent, but the request field is actually on the catalog task. So it could be, I don't know, maybe a second parent. I don't know. So anyway, here's our domain, top, right? So it matches. Now let's try and change this thing to, we're going to change it to this Aspen dashboard group. Now we're going to click save. And now we're going to go to our requests. And now we'll see the domain has changed to top MCT. So anyone at the MCT level, because let's say that like our original requester was in top, but then our fulfillers are in MCT, they're probably not going to be able to see that information. They're definitely not going to be able to see that information. So we need to bring it down to their level just for fulfillment. And then, we could create another business rule to flip it back up to top. And this, kind of alleviates the issue of having to go into all the domain structure and change it all around and all that stuff. So, all right, and then here is number 5, calculate real-time story points. Okay, so this one, the requirement was Scrum Master. Basically, the way the stories work or sprints is that we'd have at the end of the sprint, we'd have and I created some of these fields here that we'll get to in a second. But basically, if we take a look at our stories, the main issue is that when we go into a story, we don't have this like real-time story points or anything. We have like a total number of points. I created, let's see here, was it percent complete? I believe I created this real-time story points, and percent complete is already there, I'm sorry. But it's kind of binary. It's either 0 points towards the sprint, or you're 100% done and all these points have already been counted, right, or have been accomplished. But there's no way in the middle of it that, like in the middle of this story, if it's a bigger story and it's going to take you like a week to do it, but the Scrum Master is getting kind of worried because you're getting towards the end of the sprint. They want to know what kind of percentage, like real time, you are towards completing the goal of completing the story, right? So basically the issue was like they want a real-time number on the amount of points or percentage complete, and then secondary to that is they wanted it to roll up to the sprint. So what we'll do now is, and I'm just going to refresh this record real quick here. Okay, so we come in here, total story points. So this is a tabulation that comes all the way up of all the stories. So, and one thing I did was, and let's go to the business rule first. Sorry, I don't want to get ahead of myself. And I just did like state is not complete, or excuse me, it's not canceled. And then we're going to do insert or update. And after the transaction runs on the RM story table. Now remember, we're running this on the RM story table, right? But what we need to do is push it up to the sprint level. So here's our query. We're going off the number field, and we're saying, okay, current.parent.number, and that's our query right there. And then down here we're saying, and this one you might want to kind of take a little bit of time to peel back. So we're saying current, remember off the story, right? Real-time story points minus previous dot real-time story points. Why did I do that? In case the number goes down, right? So we don't want to double count the numbers. And then down here we're saying GR on the sprint table, real-time story points equals real-time story points plus X. Okay, so might take you a couple minutes to kind of digest that one, but let's just watch it in action. Okay, so here's our sprint. We got 80 total story points. Well, there's only one story down here, right? So let's just go ahead and change this to, I don't know, what are we going to do here for this? We're going to say maybe 75. Now let's just do 60%, right? That should be 48 points. Let's do real-time story points. Let's watch at the bottom here. Did it update? Yes. And also I think I put a script on this, like an on-cell edit, so that way it actually automatically refreshes, so that way the Scrum Master doesn't come back and say, hey man, you know, like it didn't refresh, and they don't have to automatically refresh it themselves. So if I ramp down the points here, and let's just make sure that, let's see, what's our percent complete? 60. So I'm going to do like 50 here. We'll see if it takes both of these down. So at this point, didn't do the auto refresh. So what I'm going to do is I ran the business rule here beautifully, but it didn't on our line item. So I think I have to put in another on-cell edit script for that. But we'll see here, real-time story points is 30. So whenever I change this, like if I change to 100, or I don't know, we'll just do 90, right? So that's gonna be what, 45 points. It'll automatically refresh that. We'll see right here, our current story points completed. So it would actually, and then I have another business rule that, you know, if we had several stories in here, it would tally up the points here at the sprint level. I thought it was something kind of cool to do. It definitely took me a couple of cycles to get it down pat with the refreshes and all that stuff, and also thinking through, like, what if the number of points actually decreases, and that's where we got that minus the previous in the actual script here. So that was kind of critical to this, because at one point there was double counting when I was in the testing environment. I said, whoops, all right, gotta fix that real quick. So just to review, here are our 5 ServiceNow business rules that we went over today. If you learned something, go ahead and click like or post a comment. My name's Jason Miller, founder of ServiceNow Solutions, and we've just unlocked the power of ServiceNow.